Hello, guys. Welcome to episode 11 of the Cinematic Boys Reviews. Today, of course, you got Dakota here. We also got Sammy back in the building. How you doing, Sammy? How's been your week?
Great to see everyone. Great to see everyone again. It's been a good week. It's been a good week. I know I've been saying that every time. It's hard for me to have a really bad week. If I had to say, last week was iffy, but off to a good start so far. I can't complain, man. Yeah. How
How
about
was your
you?
Easter?
Yeah, it was good. Honestly, I didn't really see much family just because I was been visiting family recently a lot. So I just kind of hung back and caught up on some movies. Hung out with some friends. It wasn't bad. Cleaned up around the apartment. What about you, man? How was your Easter?
Mine was good. Austin came over to the house with the Kindle. We
Awesome.
ate lunch. Then I watched The Beekeeper. Then we had leftovers that night. But besides that, work. Of course, we did the review last week for Godzilla, King of the Monsters, which
Let's
that
check
should
that
already.
out. If you
Yes.
haven't seen it yet, go back and check it out before this one. So
Then me, mom, and dad went to go see Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire Friday because dad got off early, so he came with me and mom to go see it.
awesome, man. How'd they like it?
Mom, I think she gave it 3 or 4, but she don't like these movies that much. Dad, he actually kind of liked it,
No, I've heard good things about it, so I'm
but
excited to check it out in the near future.
let's get right to it. Of course, we're sticking on the theme MonsterVerse. So this is our last MonsterVerse film, which is Godzilla versus Kong, which is the one that came out right before the new release this past Friday, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. So this movie came out 2021, a year after the pandemic. But neat fact for you, I looked this up. This thing was supposed to come out March of 2020.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
remember because I think it was I think it was this movie. It was a couple movies. This movie,
Quiet
Dune,
Place Part 2,
and Mulan. Yeah, and A Quiet Place Part 2 all had massive marketing like right before COVID hit.
because I
So
think Dune was supposed to be November 2020. Mulan was May. Then
no, that was
this,
coming out March. That was
oh,
coming
was it
out
coming out
like
in March?
it was coming out the end of that was a big deal for Disney because I think don't quote me on this, but they lost at least like 8 figures worth of
Yeah, because
like
they put
money
straight
from
to per.
marketing.
They put it straight to Disney Plus.
Well, no, that was their budget for March. They had to add to the budget to make up for COVID. You
Are
see what I'm
you
saying?
serious?
Like they
Oh
spent all the
yes.
budget anticipating it to come out in like 2 weeks, and then COVID hit. So then they had to completely add a new budget and remarket the entire movie. So that cost a whole thing. If it's Disney, they got the money, but it was still
Yeah.
the point is this was one of those movies that fell in that category. I remember when they were releasing it, this is when they started doing the max releases like in theaters and at
Yeah,
home at the same
because
time.
they started with Wonder Woman back in December 2020 because that came out on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Then
And
they
they did
tested
that. They
that.
didn't do it with Tenet. They didn't do it with Tenet.
No, because they tested it and see how it was going to do because they're like theaters are bad right now. We need to push Wonder Woman out because we don't need to prolong this universe. And they saw where Tenet did not do that great in theaters by itself. They're like, let's test with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman did not do that bad, kind of in the box office, but also on streaming. I think a lot of people streamed it.
It was just a
So
good
they
Christmas movie, yeah, at least for the time being.
so they thought it was a good idea to put the whole slate of 2021 movies simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max, which it was called HBO Max at the time, which this movie fell into the slate kind of like Dune Part 1 did of the same year being on the HBO Max theater slate, which one, it's bad because a lot of people didn't go to the theater, and two, I don't care. I didn't. There was like one release I think out of the whole entire release slate during that year I saw on Max because when I went to the theater to go see it, the theater that it was in wasn't working at the time. Their sound was down, so that was
Got
all.
you, yeah.
So every movie that came out mostly during that time that I wanted to see, I got to see it in theaters because it was this, The Little Things, the one with Rami Malek and Denzel Washington,
Yes, yeah. I know you're talking about.
Dune. What else came out that year? Suicide Squad.
Batman
No, Batman was next year. That was a full
2021.
theatrical release. No, that was 2022. That was March of 2022. Because this
I
was March of
promise you, there's
2021.
20. I thought it was October of 2021.
No, because they delayed it to March of 2022.
You're right. You're right. They did do that. I forgot about that.
Because the one I was talking about was Malignant. I wanted to see that in theaters.
Yeah,
And the
yeah. I
speakers
remember
weren't
that.
working because I literally went there. Mom dropped me off after work. I begged her and she's like, okay, you can go see this. And I walk inside. I asked for a ticket. They're like, oh, yeah, the speakers aren't working. I'm like, yo, are you serious? Because I really want to see that because, of course, I'm a big James Wan fan. And, of course, it was that, I think it was that night or a couple days later. I'm like, because it was that last week in theaters, I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to stream it on HBO Max because I'm not going to get another chance to watch this in theaters. I'll watch this right now before the month goes up.
No, yeah, I think there's definitely an argument to be made about whether it was good or not for that to happen. But I think it definitely makes sense for the time being, considering there was still a lot of states that didn't allow people to go to movie theaters. There was a lot of people that still felt like unsafe, and
Because
obviously money talks, so they're gonna find a way to get that out to people. And so,
because I understand like the first half of like 2021 or like 3/4 of it. It's like we were still in a predicament like this came out in March until into March. So I get that because theaters were opening back up because that's what I saw on Wikipedia and you could have this. But it's like by the time Doom Part 1 came out, it's like you could actually have pulled this and people would still gone to the theater because it's Doom.
no, yeah, I think it was definitely to just secure numbers with Max, but also COVID was a weird. It kind of messed with how people like view movies. Like I think the hype for going to the theaters to see a movie exponentially died because of COVID, and I think it was because there wasn't really a lot of movies right when COVID hit that were asked like that was asking for that kind of attention coming out. I'd argue the last movie that was really big like that had people like slammed at the theaters was Endgame, and then
No
like
Star Wars.
the gap. I mean,
Everyone
yeah,
went to
but
go
it
see that
wasn't.
movie though.
Yeah, but it wasn't the same. Like everyone saw Endgame. I knew people that missed Skywalker, right? Skywalker, because they just didn't like the Disney Star Wars. Like everyone saw Endgame. The theaters were slammed, sold out for
Oh, Lion
weeks.
King
So many
also.
people that saw it. Yeah, Lion King also too. Those were two movies I feel like the last two. But then recently, like Barbie and Oppenheimer kind of brought back that like
Did
that
you ever see
need
Top
to
Gun
go
in
see it.
theaters?
I didn't. That movie did
That
too.
that movie was
That
slant.
yeah.
When we went, it was me, Austin, Mom, Dad, and Kendall. We all went to go see it at our local Regal because where they have the RPX. I wanted to go
Yeah.
see an RPX. That theater was slam packed, and that was at 11 o'clock a.m. showing.
Damn. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean,
Like
nowadays
literally,
you would not see that.
because I think people literally got out of church, literally went to the theater to watch this movie.
Yeah.
One, it's Tom Cruise, and two, it's Top Gun.
Yeah, and everyone thought it was. I mean, people thought it was better than the original, which I know I'm a criminal. I haven't seen Maverick yet,
I love
so
Maverick. I love Maverick
mm,
because, for example, I think if they released this later, this could brought the cinema feeling back. But I think movies like kind of like No Way Home,
yeah,
Multiverse of Madness, Top Gun. Just think of last year, the Batman, Oppenheimer, Barbie. Right now, Godzilla X Kong, Doom
like
in the
it's definitely
theater.
brought people back to the theater.
Theater, yeah. Especially for the older audience, like the 60s, 70s, especially the Oppenheimer. You should see how many older people came to the theater just to watch Oppenheimer.
Oh, for sure, because I mean it was from their era. So I mean, well, it depends on how old you are, obviously, but at least like it's it's a culturally relevant thing. or at some point was. So, it's gonna attract everybody. But yeah, sorry man. back to back
You're good.
to Godzilla Kong.
So, of course, like I said, this movie came out in 2021, beginning like how we went to the Max, the HBO Max theater simultaneously. This movie stars Alex Skarsgård, which is the son of Stellan Skarsgård, who played in Dune. Rebecca Hall, Kyle Chandler is returning, and Millie Bobby Brown is returning from Godzilla King of the Monsters. Brian Tyree Henry's in this. And I think it's Isaac Gonzalez. I gotta mention that, or Bilal's going to like kill me for
He's gonna get
not
on
saying
you.
that. Yeah, because he loves Isaac Gonzalez. But I think that's mostly it for our main cast of well known, because this is probably one of the most stacked cast I think I've seen of well known
Yeah.
actors in this.
At least in this franchise so far, from what they've established.
True, and this is directed by Adam Wingard. I think that's his name, right?
Which what else did he direct? I
He
didn't
so he
recognize the
directed
name.
You're Next,
Okay.
and what else I got? It's going to eat me alive if I don't do it. Adam Wingard and somebody else. Oh, he directed another movie. I really
Oh, did he do Blair? He did Blair Witch remake.
Blair Witch, and he also done The Guest
Okay, yeah,
with Dan
yeah,
Stevens.
yeah, and he also did the new Godzilla. But I have to say, the
Oh,
man
and Death
also
Note.
did. I was about to say he did the live action Death Note. No, there's no forgiveness for anybody that worked on the live action Death Note. I'm so sorry.
I haven't even watched it yet, but of course he directed that.
Don't
This is
watch
his
it.
first, I
Just
think,
watch the
like,
anime.
and he also was one of the directors on VHS 1 and 2.
Yeah, which that I think his roots at being in horror also is interesting, considering how much of this movie doesn't feel like a horror, but it works it for what it does.
So I didn't know back then. So now he's a really big Godzilla and Kong fan. So when he got the opportunity to make this movie right here, he took it
No, that makes sense.
because I don't know about this one, but in the new one he loves the Shohei Godzilla era, and he really put that into the new Godzilla and Kong movie. I don't know about this one this much because of course it's a battle between the two of them.
Yeah, it's more centric on the fight, the whole movie.
But with that being said, let's get right into this. Spoiler free first, by the way. Sammy, what are your spoiler free thoughts? If I could say it
No,
right.
you're good. You're good, man. Personally, for me, I actually really liked this movie. It was. I felt like it was one of the first movies outside of Skull Island that like tonally understood like what it was trying to do. It was never too serious. It knows it's stupid. It knows it's fun. Um, I'll be honest with you, I feel like I was a lot more lenient watching this movie because it honestly gave me the feeling that I could be. You know what I mean? And I kind of like movies like that where it knows that you're there for one thing or you're there for this, and it caters to you, but it also like it understands its audience. And I feel like these movies biggest problem is it doesn't understand its audience or understand what it wants its audience to have. And this is one of the first movies where like I feel like they finally like they got the formula down, but they know what they want to do. And it's really cool. I think the way they build Kong in this movie is really interesting and making him more of like a character than just a figure, unlike Godzilla. And I just think the movie benefits from going at the approach of we are here for one thing, Godzilla versus Kong, and that's what we're mainly focused on more than anything. Um, and I feel like it also just it builds its world well. like it keeps building the world of Monarch and everything going on in that situation more, but it isn't like King of the Monsters where its whole goal is to really sell you on it. It's just it kind of abandons doing a lot of that for just, hey, we're here for dumb monster fun, which I like that. I think they need to do more of that because for me, that's the major saving grace of these movies is the action fights. If the fights weren't good, I don't think the movies would be as good or at least as like memorable to watch as they are. But overall, I fucking love this movie, man. At least to I just really loved how they did the action. I love how they did um like the minimal like kind of silly story with it, and it just I don't know, it just worked for me. But what about you, man?
Okay, before I get into my thoughts, is this your first time watching this movie?
Yeah.
Okay, this is my third time watching this movie.
I would say, yeah,
So,
you've watched it a decent amount of times.
so I've watched it my first time in the theater, which to be shocked, honest with you, going on this little tangent thing right here. Even though it was released in March, because I watched it specifically, I know the date. April 3rd. Because this movie was released on the Wednesday.
That's today.
Yes. 3 years ago today, I watched this movie in theaters. By the time we're recording this, which was April 3rd. So at that time, I think there was like 30 to 40 people in my theater.
Okay, that's still decent for then. I mean, like I remember going to when I did go to the movies, it was empty. So
Yeah, because this is one of the, I think out of the whole time except No Way Home, this is the movie I think it had the most people.
okay.
But I watched it in theaters for the first time. My second time I watched it when I was in college. I think I was still hyped about this movie at the time after watching it. So I just popped it on the TV real quick and watched it one night. Now, of course, it's my second rewatch for this podcast episode. But heck, it still loves. Going into my thoughts, this movie still lives up to why I watched it 3 years ago. The fights still, we getting some good kaiju fights in this. Like, even though I have said many times and all my other reviews that Godzilla X Kong has some good fights in it, I think this has some of the best though.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that.
it's not like meaningless fights because I think Adam Wingard how to direct these movies and appease fans. Like I think Garrett Edwards like wanted to bring Godzilla back to the way it was in America. Kong, I think they were trying to build off the success of Peter Jackson's because a lot of people like Peter Jackson's King Kong movie. Then, of course, they wanted for King of the Monsters just to continue the story. But this one, I think he knew what he was doing. The story, I kind of like the human story in this because we got two human storylines. We got the Kong side and we got the Godzilla side.
Which I think for me, the story for me felt very reminiscent of like an 80s film, which I kind of
Yes.
like. I kind of liked that because and what I mean by that, not to say this is all of 80s film, but like an 80s trope where it's like it's more focused on like big events and moments and like characters existing than like expansive like super insane stories or anything, and you got people going off on different journeys doing different things. I kind of actually I don't know how to describe it. I feel like everything I'm saying right now is just any movie, but like it just has this distinct 80s feel where like it knows when to just kind of let go and just kind of just do its thing, and then it's like, okay, now we want to tell a story. Okay, we're just gonna keep going off this. It feels like the most like it's the least demanding movie of the audience out of all the MonsterVerse movies, in my opinion. It's not asking you to remember a lot. It's not asking you to keep up with a bunch of random information. It's just kind of here. Here's Godzilla, here's Kong. Let him go at it.
Like I agree with you there, rather, because a lot of people are saying between these two, especially the new one, a lot of 80s films. The music, the way the movie is. Some of the characters remind people of a lot of like what the 80s characters is. Especially I think what you were talking about is the villain of this movie because feels more like of an 80s styles villain of what his
Yeah,
motive is and stuff. It's not like it's kind of like the cheesiness of it. I think that's what it is. This movie feels cheesy,
it's very.
and
It
it feels
knows it's
campy.
cheese.
It feels like camp,
Yeah,
and it's
but it
good.
knows it
It's not.
is.
It's good camp though. It's not the like you say. Don't take itself serious. It's like there's some movies that are like camp, but they take themselves serious, and it's not bad, and it's bad. But this is camp, and they know it's going to be camp throughout this whole entire movie when they were making it, and that's what makes it so good. Because like the music in this, like there was one scene with it was like a type of 80s song. I'm like, okay, I can rock with this, especially the end credit scene song. I think that's like an
Yeah,
80s song, 80s 70s type of song. So I'm like, okay, um, I like Kong in this a lot.
I
The
think. Yeah, yeah.
one thing I have a problem with is this is Godzilla versus Kong, right? And they do this the same way. I'm just going to tell you this with Godzilla X Kong. They lean more towards Kong, and Adam Wingard has said that when he wants to make his third movie, that he wants to lean more towards Godzilla because it has came out that each movie, I think the highest runtime for Godzilla in any of the movies from Godzilla King of the Monsters, then this, and then Godzilla X Kong, I think its highest like screen time is 13 minutes in any of the movies. I think
Which
I think add all the movies together, you don't even get an hour of Godzilla in any of them and all the movies combined.
and that's something that I felt like is like still a problem with this series that I feel like I just keep seeing is they don't know what they want Godzilla to like be. They keep changing. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he a savior? Is he an animal? You know what I'm saying? Like they keep jumping back and forth, and it just at some point they have to have a concrete idea of their own Godzilla because it'd be different if it was different animals or different creatures, kaiju creatures, but it's not. It's the same Godzilla, and I feel like I never can tell you what how he's grown compared to the original films. Like I can't. It's different. Like in this movie, he's like at first seen more as the bad guy, and we just spent the entirety of the last movie convincing everyone he's a hero again. And
But
that's just the kind of thing that always so far with this series with how they've handled Godzilla has tripped me up a little bit. I'll get more into that in the negatives though.
yeah, but
But
of course we
yeah.
figure that we always tell you guys that when we get to the spoiler part of the positives and negatives, why he's technically the bad guy in this.
I
But
apologize. I did not mean for
you're
that
good.
to be.
You didn't tell the reason though. My
Yeah,
goodness,
no, I
there was
don't.
just some
Yeah.
lightning outside, and it scared the crap out of me. Um, but I was going to also tell you, Shoho, like the people over the Japanese people over the Godzilla name,
Toho?
yeah, is it Toho? I've been saying Shoho.
No, yeah, it's Toho. Yeah, it's
So
Toho.
Toho has made rules for the Americans that they certain rules that they can't and can use for Godzilla. So maybe that's why. Sorry, maybe that's why Godzilla is the way he is in these American films.
And I guess, yeah, that's the thing that's like, I feel like I would like to know like an idea of the criteria that they have for them. And I feel like at that point from there, it's like, okay, is it on the original creators or is it on the new auteur that's like taking it over? You know what I mean? And I don't know. That's just something I've noticed out of the gate from now at a point where I've watched all of them up to the recent one. That I've continuously seen and felt like kind of weird about. But
But
yeah, more pros.
but no, but I hope Adam Wingard in this new one that he's gonna make after Godzilla X Kong. I'm hoping like we get more Godzilla and get more of the thing that we want from Godzilla, except the continuation of the same old Godzilla. Because after watching, I think GXK, it kind of feels the same way, but even a little bit worse because I feel like Godzilla is underutilized in that movie a little bit.
Okay, which I kind of got that vibe from the advertisement. It just felt more like you said. It was just more Kong. Oh my god, I'm sorry. You have to cut that out.
You
Um,
you could.
feels more Kong centric.
So let's get right into it. Let's get into our pros. But first of all, guys, if you guys haven't watched Godzilla versus Kong, I don't know what you guys are doing first because this movie has been out for 3 years. Go watch this movie. Do not go see GXK, then go watch this. You guys would be I don't I
You gotta watch
confused.
this one.
You'll
You
be
gotta watch this one.
confused. You actually guys would be confused. I'm glad you went to go. You saw this before you went to go see GXK because you'll be confused on some parts of the movie. And there is a spoiler that they would say in the movie because I was thinking, I'm like, did Mama and Dad watch GVK? I'm like, and she's at after the movie, she's like, I think I watched the one previously for this. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I'm like, they said a spoiler in there, but let's
No,
get
because
right.
if you're not paying attention to it, they all just kind of start name wise. They just kind of blend together.
So let's get right to it. What is your positives in this movie, Sammy? First of all, spoiler warning.
So yeah, like I said, I really liked how the movie was very laid back in its approach on the story, the tone of the movie, what knowing what its audience wants. I think this is the most self aware of the movies, and I like that. I think it's massive strength over the other movies, including Kong. Even though I love Kong Skull Island, I still think that's my favorite out of these. That I feel like this is the first one that 100% knows what it's wanting to do and it like goes about it. The action in it is phenomenal. I feel like the way it's centered, it feels old school, but it feels modern at the same time. You see like a lot of creativity and like the decisions that they make, the monsters make, and how passionate they fight each other. Like in the fight itself, it makes it worth the title and worth the build up to that fight. I like how from the start it doesn't really hold back. It isn't really building up to a big moment before releasing more moments in the movie that are big. It just kind of starts. It's just like, hey, Godzilla attacks this facility. Now we're seeing more monster shit again. And it like I said, it's very much knows it's like we're the fourth movie in the series. Like we just gotta have a good time. Um I think it benefits that like not a lot of the new cast was amazing for me, but like the ones like some of the people for like what they played, they did a great job. Um, I really liked. Oh my god, was it Brian Tyree Henry?
Yeah,
Is that yeah? I was just making sure I got it right. Yeah, I love his performance in this movie. His dialogue's not all there. They don't really give him good dialogue, but that's not on him. I think he does a good job for what he's playing and for the role that he fills in. Um, I really like how when it does build on the world, it feels more natural. It isn't trying to like start anything new or like have something like massive new in like the ideas and like world of their Godzilla. Like for example, having him be like this like podcast dude who seems like he's really out there, but he's actually on it, and he's got this massive group of followers that like watch all these things about the kaiju monsters and like Godzilla. Like that feels very modern. That feels like something I would see in Godzilla now. And so I think it's cool that and that would naturally be a discussion topic that people would invest their lives into. So I feel like it's interesting to see that side of the world a little bit more. Like I said, it doesn't overstay its welcome. This very much had the potential to be like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour extravaganza, and it's very easy, like hour 50 minutes, 2 hours, and I don't know. Like I said, man, it worked for me. A lot of positives. But what about you?
So fighting, of course, I think that, like I said before, I think this has some of the best fights in it. The music, I like the beginning. I love the beginning. We get straight on Skull Island. We see Kong. It's been, what was it, since then 4 years we since we saw Kong, because we saw Godzilla 2 years earlier. So it's like we finally get some Kong action. He's acting like he's a normal person, waking up,
Yeah, yeah,
stretching, scratching, walking around. But what I forgot about this in the 3 years is that the facility he's in the facility at the time. I really thought he's still on Skull Island and not in the little dome on Skull Island.
yeah. No, I forgot about that too. I thought they kind of rushed Kong's intro, but like I said, I kind of let that slide because to me that was the movie being like, yeah, we could explain all that, but you don't care. You're just here to see him fight. So here
Because
he
of
is.
course it's been, I think, 40 years since Skull Island till now, so they know about
Yeah, when
Kong,
that came out.
and
Yeah.
so they've been monitoring Kong the whole entire time.
Oh no, that wasn't 4 years. That was decades.
No, 40.
Okay, yeah, I thought you said
That's
4 years.
yeah, that's the
Sorry,
40.
I thought you were relating to the release date of Kong.
No,
My
no,
bad.
I'm talking
My bad.
about the
Yeah.
first time when we see Kong though.
Yeah,
It's been four
I
years
thought
for
you
us.
said 4 years, and I not 40, and that's why I was like, bro, no, that was in the 70s, man.
Yeah, 40 years. So everyone knows, like the
Yeah,
Barn Arc and everything, because I think this is around the same time. It's like 20 years after they bombed Godzilla in near the islands of Hawaii. So they already know about Godzilla by the time, but then they got even more, because by this time they got like 60 years of like education on Godzilla and then 40 years on Kong. So they know they're the two most technically primal, because
yeah, and the most like history they have like research wise, like they have Kong's like Kong kind of. I will say this movie does make its ideas they've introduced in the past work a little better than the other movies have. Like for example, they kind of use Kong's background of being a savior to the Skull Island people as like evidence that Godzilla could be a savior to the people.
and
I
she
like
is
that
the only,
idea. You know what I mean? And so I'll give them credit for that, where like they found a way to morph both those worlds together to build its ideas.
and the little girl is the only tried person left from Skull Island.
Which I thought that was cool too. I really liked her role. Yeah, we've seen it a million times, but who cares? Like it's cool. It's good. It works for what it is. Um it humanizes Kong. That's her main
Okay,
role in the
so you
film.
think that her role plays a lot more into the next movie that you haven't seen yet?
Okay. So that's cool. I'm
Yeah.
glad they keep her
So
around.
it's
Because
not
that
like a
was another
wasted
thing.
character.
No, yeah, and that was something I liked about this movie too. Is like when they first introduced new people, I was like, again, like I have to learn more people that I'm not gonna ever see again. And then you see some of the like from the last movie, and you're like, okay, now I have a frame of reference. It kind of builds the universe aspect of it more. Like it doesn't want to deep dive into where they've been the last few years. It's just kind of picking up where they are. And I like that. It almost feels like a TV episode at times, but like for this style, for like what they're doing in this movie, that works for me. That's okay. It's supposed to be a Saturday morning cartoon. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
Like at least for like the idea of just Kong and Godzilla fighting versus like one of like each of them on their own. Like them fighting together, it's just like I don't know. To me, it's the perfect like Saturday morning kind of combo, and I feel like the movie has that perfect feel that it like captures out of that.
So I also like I think I like the ending a lot. The way it carries up to the story of why we find Godzilla. Because of course we're find out like, oh yeah, Godzilla's attacking the, I think it's the Ames. I think that's what they called it.
That's Apex.
Oh yeah, the Apex facilities.
Because they have some
And
corny line about apex predators, and I was like,
and we just like we're wondering like why is he attacking? Because technically he's the bad guy. Everyone thinks, and we find out at the end that Apex took, which is the post credit scene, perfect connection of the post credit scene of when they saw King Ghidorah's head. Is
yeah,
Apex bought it and is making epic, not epic Godzilla, Mecha Godzilla, because they want, because it seems like all the humans want humanity. They like fuck the Titans. It's the humans that were first, not them. So we're gonna build our own Titan to destroy the shit out of the two that's fighting each other right now.
which this movie, I will say this, out of every single one of these movies, this movie's the first time I found something that I would never change in the world, and it's how they intro Mechagodzilla. It's a complete shock. You don't like, for me at least, going in, like, I didn't know. It was a complete shock. I love the reveal, and he's everything and more that a modern Mechagodzilla should be. And
So
I gotta give them their credit where it's due. That is easily the best part of the movie for me, is Mechagodzilla. And that whole reveal is just, that's when I was really locked in. Like, that's when I was like, this movie just got some more points from me.
because of course, like for you, you never knew, so it was like a general audience reaction. But for me, I was looking like listening to videos about Godzilla and stuff at that time because like of course we're coming out of a pandemic, there's mostly nothing to do. It's like
Yeah, you're just
go
listening, and
straight
it's
to
a new
you.
movie coming out. Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of the Toho people that watch Godzilla and stuff were like, they're setting up Mecha Godzilla in this. A lot of people are already getting like off the trailers and stuff because the Warner Brothers had a hard time because remember that shot when Mecha Godzilla comes out in Hong Kong and he's going over the buildings and it's the shot of him going over and the people running underneath.
Yeah, they were trying to edit him out, I'm
Yeah, and
assuming. And like
they
the
could never edit
yeah.
him out. So a lot of people were seeing his eye and they're like, yeah, he's in this movie. They're trying to hide it, but they can't do it.
It was like No Way Home, where they had the Brazil trailer had Lizard get punched
Yeah, and
in the
show
middle of the air. Yeah,
Andrew's
and
hand.
everyone was like, that's another Spider-Man. That's not, that's either a new hero or another Spider-Man. And they blurred him out, and then it was, of course, Toby and Andrew.
Because I knew, because like you were surprised. Like I kind of thought, I'm like, when it popped up, I'm like, okay, I already knew this, kind of knew this. It was a 50-50 chance. I'm like, okay, this is going to be cool. Because, of course, when he gets introduced, they brought skull crawlers from Skull Island.
Yeah, which I liked that. I thought it was
I
cool that
actually like that little
that came
Easter egg
in.
from
Yeah.
Skull Island because it kind of it connects the movies together. Because even though we got Skull Island, it's shown the villains from Skull Island in it. And I'm like, okay, I like how they're doing this. They're connecting everything together. Like Ghidorah said,
Yeah, and I
Godzilla, King of
just
the Monsters, Skulls, Crawlers, Skull Island.
I like the Hollow Earth thing. I like how they've mentioned that
They
theory
mentioned that
before.
in King of the Monsters because it was the two doctors, the Japanese doctor and the woman doctor. They
Well, they
mentioned about Hollow
also,
Earth.
one of the scientists, the guy that wasn't John Goodman in Kong Skull Island, also brings it up
Oh
in
no, it
one
was him.
scene.
It was oh, who is it?
You know,
The
come on
actor's
here. I
name.
can look it up.
It's
I can
the
look it up.
actor's name. Oh,
It's Jason Mitchell.
no,
No, no. God, I don't remember. That's gonna kill me.
Right. Oh, Corey Hawkins.
Yes.
Yes, I did remember him because he's like, there could be a hollow Earth somewhere in underneath. I think they mentioned Godzilla, King of the Monsters, but I do remember now from
And it's so
Skull Island.
stupid in this movie. It knows it's stupid, and that's why I love it. Like it slowly builds it, but it's like, hey, we know this is dumb. I mean, he literally teleports to Godzilla through the core of the earth
He don't
to fight
teleport.
him.
Godzilla puts a hole in that bitch in the earth, and he crawls through there.
That's what I'm saying. Like the fact that the movie is like Kong gets to Hong Kong to fight Godzilla through the core of the earth, which is another world. Come on, it knows it's stupid. It's awesome.
That would be cool. You know what
It's
could be
just
cool?
so awesome. I love it. I love how fun it is. Yeah, what
If
could
our
they do?
Earth was that way, that would be so cool.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. And I love that it just embraces it and it's just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let it be a hollow earth.
So
It's
let's
just
get right into it for another positive. The ended. I don't care. The last 20 something minutes between Godzilla and Kong fighting, Godzilla and Kong teaming up to fight Mecha Godzilla.
and then it just ends.
Chef's
And
kiss.
that's it. That's what I'm saying. Like when the fight's over, the movie's over. Because that's all they knew that's all we care about.
At least we see Kong though. Godzilla just goes off. We see Kong in Hollow Earth now living his life because of course they needed to find Kong another place because I think Skull Island's going to like go underwater or something. So they were trying to find him a place to live, and they found Hollow Earth.
And it fixes his simple arc of it's like he's just trying to feel like he has a home. And now he has a home. And so
So technically,
he got
in the
everything he
end of
needed.
this movie, he is the king of Hollow Earth because he's the only one there.
Yeah, so he's king, which I think it's weird they don't want to call him King Kong. I really just
No, so the I was watching this, and the guy when in the beginning when Rebecca Hall and that guy is talking,
yeah.
they're like, do you think the king's not going to live? I'm like, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I just wish they would like it just be like King Kong and I'd be like,
But I think there is. Oh, okay. I thought I heard something. So, I thought, it seems like through every movie, it's always the thing of like he's gonna be King Kong. Like Skull Island, he defeated the mother for the scroll crawlers. Okay, he's the king. Never mentions it. Godzilla's king of the monsters. I'm like, okay, if he defeats Godzilla, he's the king of the monsters. He doesn't defeat him. Then, of course, I'm not going to tell you. There's something in this next one. I'm like, is he king though? But it's like we got to find out in this third one that Alex Wingard or Adam Wingard wants to make.
which is obviously going to be a couple years. I'm sure whenever this year continues, we'll hear an announcement or something of a third movie. I'm sure they're just waiting for box office too, because at this
Oh,
point,
it's already made $194 million opening weekend.
that's really good. If anything, that's actually more than Dune opening
It
weekend.
beat Dune opening weekend.
I
But the
also
thing
think
is,
because of Dune and stuff like that, people are just more excited to go back to the movies now.
and you also got to think Toho is Japan. Japan's going to see this movie.
Oh yeah, but it's still one of those things where it's like it's gonna perform better here. Like I would argue, I mean, like I don't have statistics to prove that, which I'm sure with that I'd probably have a better argument for this. But I think it's just because it's Americanized, you know what I mean, and they have their own version of
I've
Godzilla.
already heard some people have already seen it like 2 times. I've heard somebody seen it 6 times already.
See, that's what I like. I'm one of those people that's like, there's few movies I could watch
But he's a really
over
big
and
fan
over
of
and
this
over.
stuff.
Oh yeah, that's different. If you love like kaiju movies and stuff like that, like of course you're gonna go to this movie. you know.
because like he's been posting like TikToks on this for like months and YouTube videos.
Oh yeah, I
Okay,
mean the
I'm
hype's
gonna
been
just go
there.
ahead and mention name Sammy, Mr. Sammy J Reacts. If you are watching this, shout out to you for being the number one Godzilla X Kong fan, and also congratulations on the 100K subscribers on YouTube today.
Congratulations.
So, of course, this is the one who has watched it 6 times. So I kind of like it because he has been giving us Easter eggs and stuff, and a lot of the Easter eggs I found out is from like not only Toho but also like these current movies.
Okay.
So once you watch that, you will figure out like some things from this newer movie, and like especially more of Godzilla versus Kong. You will find more references of this in GXK.
Okay.
So this movie is, I it feels like this movie is more connected to that. I don't know if it's just where it's a team up movie or where Adam Wingard is actually doing both of these movies. If it's more connected that way,
Yeah,
but
because
I'm
it
glad.
kind of it just has a different feel than the other MonsterVerse movies, and it makes me actually really interested to see the new Empire because I want to see if that continues in that same way. It sounds like it does from what you're saying and what other people have been saying too.
So let's get right into it. What are your negatives on this movie?
So one thing I think is off the bat that's interesting. I feel like the scaling of Kong bounces around a lot. Like I never have like a massive idea of how big he is. Like cuz in some scenes he seems more like he seems smaller like on the boat or like when he's on the island, but then when he's fighting in Hong Kong, he seems like he's almost about the same height as Godzilla. And
It's
in
the villains,
Godzilla
probably.
and I think it's just like I don't know, that's something I've had. I feel like it's weird that he's around the same height to, or at least it's scaled to where he's around the same height as Kong, at least in the intro. It kind of throws me off. I feel like it's been 40 years. He's going to grow. That's Godzilla grew. Why didn't Kong grow? Um, I just, like I said, I think this is very much a movie where, like, and this is a negative where I have my own philosophy with this movie where it's like, okay, I know this is dumb fun, so I'm just gonna turn my brain off right here. The story doesn't. It's just kind of the same thing as all the other movies for me. It's just kind of the same. Like it's one liners. It's a little plot. When they connect something, it's like that's what they're putting all of their story effort into is like making it feel connected. Um, when it honestly it already feels connected enough. I feel like at this point, when knowing both these characters exist in the world that they exist in, it just there's no reason for all that. But like I said, the movie kind of understands its audience too. It knows there's a lot of people that watch these movies and don't care for that. They just want the action. So that's kind of why also um I'm not super critical of some of the plot points in this movie, like the Hollow Earth. If I was being really critical, I would say that's really like fucking stupid. It just doesn't. It's just kind of something you just pull out of your ass. But for the movie and for what the tone is and for what they're doing, it works. It's cool. It's at least somewhat original. And like I can't think of another movie that does something like it. So I don't know. It's just fun. It's just I think like I said, for me the negatives in this movie, I could sit and think of a million things to complain about all day when it comes to like story and like presentation of story, but that's not what the movie's about. So like even then the negatives don't really outweigh the positives for me on this movie. At least compared to like King of Monsters, where I felt like I had just a lot of problems with the movie and I it made it hard for me to find enjoyment out of certain moments in it.
So for me, there's some negatives in this. One, we get too long with the characters, like human characters sometimes, and that's why I got 4 characters that I don't understand the reason in this movie. One's Alex Skarsgård. Alexander
Yeah,
Skarsgård.
he's just
I don't like his character at all
there's a lot of one note characters in this movie where they're there and they say one liners and that's their whole character. Is just whatever they are.
Isaac Gonzalez, I don't like her character whatsoever. Where she plays the daughter of the bad guy.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, all
Her
right,
and all the henchmen.
whatever.
And the two, they only throw them in there because to do a connection. Millie Bobby Brown and Kyle Chandler.
And like I said, it's one of those deals where like they make Millie do the same thing she's done in Stranger Things. We've seen a million times, which is
Because the other two we get with her,
whatever.
like Brian Tyree Henry, he's good. The guy who plays the fire dude from Deadpool, I like him in it. He does a pretty good job in this, but it's like you said, Millie Bobby Brown's just like, I don't know if it's like they wrote the character to be like 11 or the little whiny teenager who can think she can do whatever she wants. But the one problem I have is Kyle Chandler. You got a top tier actor who did pretty good in King of the Monsters and is good in TV shows and stuff.
He's very
And you give
underutilized.
him like 2 minutes of like or 3 minutes of screen time in this movie.
Just to make it, like I said, just to say, hey, we're a connected universe. I feel like that's the biggest thing I have with this series too, is that it constantly wants to remind you that hey, we're Marvel too. And it's just really not that they're actually, but you know what I'm saying? Like their formula, like, hey, we're a universe, we're like them. It's all these people all exist in the same place and space. And it's just kind of like
Because if they
I
just
don't
like
need constant reminders of that. Like I know that. I'd rather just flesh out either make new characters that are interesting and makes me want to understand them, or flesh out the ones that you've already introduced and haven't shown me at all.
dimensions like I said, Kedora, the Skull Crawlers and stuff, that's good connections if you want to connect the universe.
Exactly, and it makes it feel like all the monsters are more
It's those
unified.
little Easter eggs that you're looking for, and you realize it's like, oh yeah, that's connected. That's connected. Not we're gonna get some human characters that probably don't mess with nothing, have nothing
Well,
to
it's
do with
not
the
in your
plot.
face. It's not in your
Yeah,
face with the human character. The human characters, it's like you said, like they come out and they're saying dialogue and they're bringing up events to make you remember that it's connected.
like
Versus like the animals are just kind of like there, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's cool because I remember seeing that 4 years ago in Kong.
because like the return characters in the new one is Brian Tyree Henry, Rebecca Hall, and that old girl. And you will see in the new one that Rebecca Hall and that girl critical to the plot. Brian
Okay.
Tyree Henry's like the same with this one. It's comedic relief.
And it's just like I
But
said,
he's good though. It's not
yeah,
like he's throwing bad jokes out there. His jokes are actually funny in both movies.
yeah, and the thing is, like I said, he does what he can with the script he's given, and so it's not. I don't really blame it on him. If you haven't watched Atlanta, that's all you need to watch to understand this man's acting ability. Like it is, he is incredible.
He was good in the Eternals also.
Yeah, he was good in Eternals. I loved him a lot in Bullet Train. That was like the last
Oh yeah, I forgot he
movie
was in Bullet Train. I need
movie.
to still watch that.
You haven't seen Bullet
No,
Train?
I had not seen Bullet
You of
Train yet.
all people, low key, we might need to do Bullet Train next week and just wait on Garland until
That'll
I
back
don't
up
know
our
what you
whole
think.
schedule
That
though.
back up the whole schedule. Okay,
Yeah, I got
I
whole
didn't know. I
schedule
didn't know
coming
how
up.
strict it was. I didn't know how strict it was
I
because
would do it
you
near
gotta watch.
David
You gotta
Lynch.
watch Bullet Train,
I
man.
would do it near the Fall Guy when the Fall Guy comes out, but we got Planet of the Apes and Mad Max near that.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. But you
I definitely
definitely
I
need to
own
watch
it on
Bullet Train.
digital, but I still need to watch it.
Yeah, you need to watch it. It's good. It's good.
I heard especially that and because him and who was it? Aaron Taylor
Aaron Taylor
Johnson
Johnson.
are good in it. But
Um,
but what are you supposed to say?
oh, I was gonna say that's all my positives and negatives, man.
That's for me too. So let's get on to the little guessing game. Guess the Rotten Tomato score.
I think this is both gonna be pretty high. I think like I said, I think a lot of people know what to expect with this movies now and like what they want out of it versus what Warner Brothers keeps trying to like put in the movie. Um, I personally feel like it's gonna at least be in the 70s, late 70s. No, fuck that. I'd say like an 83 for critic. And then for audience, I'm gonna say like 89.
So 76 for critic,
Okay.
91 for audience.
That's pretty close. That's pretty I'll take pride in that. That's pretty close. What about well, never mind. When forget I said that. I was gonna say what about you, but you just told everyone. So
I kind of already saw it because I own this one digital. It
no, yeah,
popped
so
up the
that
scores.
no, that makes sense, yeah. And you're already looking at it, so
So where I'm just going with, because we already done the review, me and Bilal. I'm gonna let you predict the Rotten Tomato scores of the new one.
I'm gonna say 85 for critic. No, for audience. 85 for audience, like a 72 for critic.
92 for audience,
Okay.
54 for critic.
That's actually really low for those movies.
So this is
Because
this
they
is what everyone
usually
has said.
give that's
Godzilla
really
minus
low
one.
for them.
Critics are looking at Godzilla minus one and thinking that this is
I'm
going to
not
be
gonna
better.
lie, I'm kind of the same way though. Like I as soon because once you see Godzilla minus one, you're like, this is how you do a modern Godzilla movie. Like
But I
that
think
to me is the pinnacle of like Godzilla in the last like in this century. That is the best they've done Godzilla, in my opinion.
so. Let's go to our next thing. Let's guess the box office total. But remember, Sammy, this was simultaneously streaming and theater, and this was
Yes.
early 2021.
I'm gonna say that it max cleared like 230 at the box office.
$470.1 million.
That's really good for being a streaming release too.
And early into 2021.
Yeah, that's really good. Like there's a lot of movies now that won't touch that.
Because
Not
right
even close.
now, let's
I
look at
think I think Dune's just now at that.
Dune Part 2,
Yeah.
$628 million.
Okay, I didn't know it got that high.
Yes. This one, the new one so far, just for 4 days, $202 million.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's really good for opening weekend. I mean, obviously Easter helped, but that doesn't mean that success rate for a movie does. I mean, there's movies that have come out on July 4th, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
um I think that's definitely really good on their part. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm definitely glad to hear that. But let's get into the Oscars and see if this thing might got an Oscar
I
nomination.
think it did get a nom for visual effect. I don't quote me, but if it wasn't them, it was like, does Golden Globes do best visual effects?
I think so. So
I'm not seeing any.
yeah, they didn't have any either.
I
Wow.
saw it had a People's Choice Award, but
Yeah, it has a People's Choice Award. Yeah, that's it. Because I think Godzilla minus one was the first monster movie to ever get a nomination and win.
yeah, it was. Yeah, which is good. It earned it. It really did. It was. I don't know how they did what they did with the budget they had. So
So we got two things left before we end the episode. So one, Sammy, what is your ranking on Letterboxd? Because I remember this time.
I would give this a 4. I don't. I feel like over 4 is too much. It's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen. You know what I'm saying? It isn't. I doubt I'll revisit it super often, but there's a lot of like cool, memorable moments in the movie. I think it understands itself better than the rest of the movies. Um, I feel like I stand by a 4. I feel like honestly I could be overshooting, but like for what it is and what I got out of it, I'd say a 4. So
So for me, I
yeah.
give a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay, that's pretty.
So
Yeah, that's up there.
let's get to our next thing. So of course this is the final episode of the MonsterVerse. You have seen the 4 out of 5, so I've seen 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I gotta
From
go see the new.
worst to best right now. Can you rank them out?
Yeah, I can. It's it's Kong Skull Island, Godzilla versus Kong.
I said worst to best, not best to
Oh,
worst.
worst to worst. Godzilla, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Godzilla versus Kong, Kong Skull Island.
So for me, this is my on my Letterboxd, guys. If you guys want to go check this out, I got my ranking on there. But my ranking right now is at 5. I got Godzilla. 4. I got Skull Island. 3. I got King of the Monsters. 2. I got GXK. Then this is number 1.
That's real low for Kong. That's real low for Kong. That's all I'm
I,
gonna say.
I like the King of the Monsters, but it's just these team up movies. Adam Wingard has done something else.
I just think it's this. I don't know. I just love how much Kong feels like a solid movie on its own. I feel like the other movies just need other movies to make them work. But that's hey, you love it, man. You know what I'm saying? That's just
And
me.
I'm happy that Adam Wingard's going to do a third one. I hope Warner
Me
Brothers
too.
green lights it.
Me too. I think that's a good move, and obviously they have someone who really cares about the franchise and knows how to translate it well for American audiences and for Japanese.
So, do you
So
think he's going to do another team up movie for his third movie, or do
sure,
you think he's going to do a Godzilla because he wants to do more Godzilla? So, or do you think he's going to make a solo Godzilla movie
I
with
think
more Godzilla in it?
I think he'll do more Godzilla with cameos of people we've seen. Like they won't be massive to the movie, but they'll like pop in.
Do you
You
think
know what I
that it'll
mean?
be a solo Godzilla movie, or do you think it'll be another Kong Godzilla movie?
Like I said, I think it could be Godzilla centric and like Kong's in it for like 2 scenes in the movie kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? Like a Hulk and Thor Ragnarok kind of deal. And
I'm
then you're
thinking.
like, I don't know. That's just me personally. Like, I could see them going down that route where it's like, hey, we're still a universe, but like here's a movie on Godzilla again.
I think they could do a solo Godzilla movie, but they could add Rebecca Hall and Dan Stevens while he's in the new one in it, because they're the only two kaiju left that's good, and they're
Yeah.
keeping trace on both of them in the new movie. It's not like it's like how in this one Kyle Chandler and them are keeping track of it, and Rebecca Hall and them are keeping track of Kong.
Yeah.
No, she's keeping track of both of them in this new one.
See, that's cool. And I feel like that's where it was kind of heading to is like, hey, we don't have to just think Godzilla's the only one that can help us.
So I think they could do a solo, because I don't know if another team up movie could wear people out.
Well, I think it's with time too. If they pumped out another one in 2 years, for sure. But if you gave it
And I
like
think
four-ish years or so, and then came out with another one, it's like okay, yeah, we've had time to sit. You know, that's kind of why I think this new one works because it's like okay, it's been 3 years since Godzilla versus Kong. We were all at home. Like now, let's go back to the theater and see him again. You know.
because there's a lot of like Godzilla characters from the Toho era that Kong would not fight. I think Adam Wingard could do right with that.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, it's in good hands, so I'm not worried about it.
So, oh yeah, one more thing. I'm glad I got Hong Kong in this.
Yeah,
So,
I thought that was cool. I thought that was a cool reference to, especially for the final fight. It uses its city lights really well.
so guys, is that it for you for Sammy? And
Oh,
is
I'm
that
done.
for
Yeah.
Sammy? I'm
I
sorry.
think
That
no, you're
it's
good.
getting late in the
You're
night
good.
to
You're
record
good,
this.
man.
Is that it
You're
for
good.
Godzilla versus Kong?
That's it for me, man. I said my piece.
Okay, that's it for me too. So, guys, with that being said, this is the end of the episode. Let's get into our future of the couple episodes. So, but first of all, if you guys like this podcast and our first listeners, give us a rating on Apple and Spotify. Follow us if you guys haven't. If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit that like button, of course.
Subscribe.
Like Sam says, subscribe, turn on the bell notification. It will tell you guys whenever we post clips from our regular podcast episodes, shorts, or of course our episodes on our reviews and regular podcast episodes. And guys, if you guys haven't yet, because we're of course still a new podcast, spread the word if you guys have anybody like that likes movies, because we go into all types of movies. We don't talk about Godzilla and Kong. We
Yeah.
Before we talked about Denis Villeneuve. Upcoming, we're going to be talking about Planet of the Apes, Alex Garland's movies, Mad Max. June is we're going to see what we can do in June. But of course, on the regular podcast, me and Bilal, and if we could ever get Sammy on there for a couple episodes, we do weekly new movie reviews, movie news, trailers, drafts, all that store stuff. So, guys, if you guys haven't yet, tell some people, tell them to come join the little community family that we're having built over here, that we're building over here. And of course, if you guys are new here, follow, like, subscribe, rate us, come back, especially for next week, because here's the next week's episodes. For episode 13 of the Cinematic Boys podcast, me and Bilal will be reviewing Monkey Man, which comes out this Friday, directed by Dev Patel, which is his directorial debut. But of course, we're going to be in our normal stuff, movie news, trailers, draft, because we could probably do a little bit of a draft if we need to. Of course, for next week's review, me and Sammy will be back here, which will be our last review for us together before Bilal comes back. So we'll be reviewing Men, which would be our first Alex Garland film out of his little trilogy he has right now before Civil War comes out. And Civil War comes out in 9 days from right now. So we'll be
Really?
yes, it
I
comes
thought that
out.
was a June, July movie.
No, it comes out April 12th. That's why we're doing the movies right now.
That makes sense. Wow, I thought that was a summer movie. I don't know
And
why.
it's an IMAX too. And they say the sound in that is so good.
I could see that. I could see that.
So, of course, we'll be doing Men next week. Me and Sammy, if you guys are wondering why we're doing Men first, one, Bilal don't like Men. He don't want to watch it. He feels like that's not a type of movie for him. And two, it's going to be his last week before he comes back from Ramadan. So me and Sammy are going to do it. Of course, as you guys know, I'm a big horror fan. As you guys have been hearing for the past couple weeks from our talk, Sammy is a big horror fan too. And you have seen Man, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Yeah, I saw Man. It was a movie that like I liked where it was starting to go and like talk about, but it just didn't work for me. I think it just kind of gives up on what it's trying to do like halfway through the movie. Um so I'm interested to rewatch it because that was obviously just first impression a couple years ago. But yeah, I remember seeing it with my sister.
So this is going to be my first watch. I am really looking forward to it because I've watched none of the Alex Garland movies, and I'm really excited for Civil War.
The cinematography is really good in it. I will say that. I mean, like it's
I'm a
just
little bit sad that he's
yeah,
announced his retirement, though.
yeah, and who knows? That could change too. I mean, like we live in a world where you could just, all right, I'm back. You know what I mean?
True.
So
Hopefully, he gets his love after writing. Was it 28
20
years
years
later?
later, yeah, yeah, which that's going to be exciting to see that. So
So, guys, with that being said, when you guys hear me next time, it'll be on episode 13 of the Cinematic Boys podcast. And when you hear Sammy next time, it'll be on episode 12 of the Cinematic Boys reviews episode. So, guys, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. You gonna say anything, Sammy?
till next time.